Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Opposing Sidelines. This is where we talk to a podcaster from the opposing team, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their team and how they think the game will go. Today, I have KnightBengal from the Knighted Ones podcast. He's also a member of the College Huddle with me. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Getting excited for the game. I'm less excited than I was a week ago, but definitely still ready to go.
Yeah. When I had Ag Jack from Agnox on, one thing he said is that A&M was feeling, oh, how can we lose this game? I said to him, oh, Florida fans are feeling the same way. And of course, we saw that turned out. Is that kind of the feeling right now down in Orlando, or what's the feeling coming into this game for the Knights?
I think the vibe right now is we were pretty confident going into the Colorado game, and I think the team was too. And unfortunately, I think they were a little overconfident and didn't prepare properly or take it seriously or whatever in the bye week. But I think for the fan base, the general vibe is, hey, we need to right the ship. Number one. Number two. The confidence level was pretty high coming out of going into Colorado, but now it's more, hey, we've got more problems than we thought we did, and there's still, we should win this game is the thought process, right? But this team, the way that they lost last week, really makes you question on whether they will be able to stick to the fundamentals and things that they need to do to perform well against the Gators. So that's it's more like, hey, we still think we should win, but it's not we know we should win kind of situation. If that makes any sense.
It does, because I think a lot of Gator fans went from the opposite experience. A lot of Gator fans are like, oh man, we're about to get trucked in the swamp by UCF based on our performance against A&M and Miami, to seeing that Colorado game last week. And I think some of it's because there's still a lot of Florida fans who don't really respect Colorado. And it's kind of like, okay, this is a game we can win now. Although many were hoping we were going to win, many had the thought that hope being a strategy, which I know you and I have talked about several places. Hope is not a strategy, where now it feels like this game is back in the winnable camp. So it is an interesting shift for the Gators, although we still have questions about our defense or whatnot, which I know anyone that checks out the Knighted Ones podcast is going to see me talking about my fear for the defense. And of course, the preview I have coming up will address that. But going and getting to the Knights, what are the strengths of this Knights team?
Well, obviously the running game. I think anybody who pays attention to stats in college football knows this is one of the top rushing offenses in the country. We did recently lose one of the members of the four-headed monster that we had, our backup running back who transferred from Cincinnati. He's got an unspecified leg injury, but he was in a brace for the Colorado game and did not dress. So we don't know how long. We don't have injury reports like the SEC does, and Gus likes to, for better or for worse, he likes to keep those things close to the vest. And at the end of the day, we know that he will not be playing in this game. That being said, we still have Penny Boone, who was a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and we still have RJ Harvey. So the strengths is still the running game. And obviously, you got to account for KJ. You guys know that from last year. He's a big dude. He can shed tackles. He's 6'3", 255 pounds. He's not afraid to take guys on head on. He did have bruised ribs early on in TCU in the second quarter. He had bruised ribs, but I don't expect that to slow him down too much. So you've still got to account for all of them. Kobe Hudson is another strength for this offense. Kobe Hudson was the top, I think it was the second top receiver going in college football in yards and touchdowns going into the Colorado game. He ran into Travis Hunter, and he made some mental mistakes, to be honest. He dropped a touchdown early on. in the first quarter, and then had another drop, which is uncharacteristic for him this season. So we'll see if he recovers, but he's a name that Gator fans should know. Outside of that, offensively, Randy Pittman is someone else that you should know. He's the tight end for UCF. UCF has traditionally, since Gus Malzahn is here, has not really used the tight end very much as far as a pass catching tight end. Pittman, however, he got some run this last game and is getting more and more. He's a sophomore who he's got he's a pass catching tight end that acts like a receiver, if that makes any sense. He can move, he runs. He's not the biggest tight end in the world, but he's pretty quick for a tight end. So that's another name to watch, and he's really the second receiver on this offense. We do expect Burdell Richardson, who is a freshman, to come in and play in this game. He had a big 4-star recruit. He did really, really well in the preseason, and then also played well, in the couple of games that he played early on. But again, true freshman, highlight catches, in practice and et cetera, but didn't quite get the playing time yet. Xavier Townsend was someone we were kind of trying to hold on to. So he got that second wide receiver starting role, but he announced today, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. He wasn't blowing it out of the water, and we weren't really leveraging him very much. He decided that he was going to shut it down for the season, and he's going to pursue a transfer. So that means that Burdell Richardson will be playing, and he's someone to really watch. Got good length, good speed, ready to go. Defensively, I don't know. After last game, I don't know what we call strength. Deshaun Pace is someone that you need to look out for, though. He's a linebacker, but he also plays safety. He's a ball hawk. He's aggressive. He's a great defender. He's a turnover machine. So he's someone that Mertz and Lagaway are going to have to keep an eye on and make sure that they're aware of where he is in the field. Lee Hunter, he is a menace, but his biggest problem right now is his partner in crime is out on defensive line, and that's John Walker, which should be somebody that the Gators are very familiar with. So with him being out with an injury, he's been sidelined for the past 3 games and is not going to be available for this game. We're gonna have Ricky Barber in there at defensive tackle. Defensive end, someone else that Miami fans and UF fans should be aware of is a certain defensive end, Nigel Kelly, who was playing for the Miami Hurricanes, was recruited last year, started as a freshman, got injured, sat out the rest of the season, and then transferred to UCF. He's the last 2 games have started to come on a little bit, and he had a sack last game and seems to be starting to get the pressure. So those are 3 guys to know on the defensive line. As far as strengths are concerned, if the UCF defensive line has enough time, they will get after you. They may not sack you. Sacks have been a little light. They had 2 sacks last game against Travis Hunter, but again, Shedeur Sanders. But Shedeur Sanders, he tends to move around the pocket and he'll wait for plays to develop, where the previous quarterbacks that we played against, they had the ball out on an average of 2 seconds. So not much your defensive line can do, not really a way that you can impact them other than to get pressure to try to get them, out of the pocket. The PFF has the defensive line and the defensive ends rated pretty highly. So that has to do with their ability to affect pressure. And I think for the Gators, one of the things they're going to need to do is get the ball out quickly. As far as defensive backs are concerned, I had a really poor game last week. I mean, it was indefensible, to use a pun. But the defensive backs, Antoine Jackson had a very bad game. Brandon Adams, the last 2 games, he's been kind of suspect. But then again, the players that he was playing against are highly rated as far as wide receivers are concerned. The previous 3 years, I think he had a record where he had the least amount of touchdowns against him. I think it was only 1 touchdown against him his entire career. So he's been a shutdown corner for a very long time, but it's going to be tough there. So for strengths, I'm going to say defensive line and defensive end. For the linebackers have played well, but not great the last 2 games. I hate calling it a strength. And, as far as defensive backs are concerned, I think the strength would be Brandon Adams if he plays the way that he's expected to play. So that's the strengths. As far as weaknesses are concerned, this UCF defense, they play a soft zone because they try to overload. They will try to overload the defensive line to try to get after the quarterback. They play soft coverage, which is not good when they're playing one-on man coverage. You're going to have a lot of success if you get with the underneath throws and quick strikes for 10 to 15 yards in that soft coverage. The other weakness is tackling. I mean, they did great the first 3 games, but this last game against Colorado, that's like they forgot how to tackle. So, that's a potential weakness there as well. Offensively, the big thing there is every single team so far this season is going to load the box. I imagine the Gators are going to do the same thing. It's the smart thing to do because of our running game, to try to stop the running game, but also puts pressure if you can get through. Last week, there's number 69, Paul Rubelt, who's a guy from Germany who really put his time in the program for 3 years to get a starting position, had played really, really well the entire off season. But last game, quite frankly, the pass pro was not very, very good. And a lot of the pressure came from his side. So, there is a potential to get sacks on this team and on this offensive line, depending what we're playing out of. And then the other thing offensively is really our number 1 receiver is Kobe Hudson. And if you can stop Kobe Hudson, there's not much depth behind him as far as receiver is concerned. So as long as you can stop Kobe Hudson, you can focus on Pittman. And if you do those 2 things, then the passing game is pretty much out of the picture. So as far as weaknesses are concerned, I think that the Gators can get pressure on KJ. If they get pressure on KJ, it's going to be a long game. And then the last thing I'm going to say is just from a coaching perspective is the adjustments. The last game and the previous game before that, the adjustments were better in the second half of TCU, but the Colorado adjustments were just terrible. We didn't stretch the field, which we should have, to get people out of the box. I don't know what was going on with the game plan. There's a lot of disappointment in UCF land based on what that coaching staff did, prepared for Colorado, how they prepared the team. And so that's a potential weakness there. But that's my strengths and weaknesses. As far as keys to the game, the Gators have to stop the run and they have to get pressure on KJ. If they can do those 2 things and blanket Kobe Hudson by shading a safety over or something like that, they're going to have the defense is going to have a chance to cause some problems for UCF's offense. Defensively, and for your offense, the biggest thing that you guys can do and key to the game is if you can get that short passing game going and consistent. So that's my keys.
Yeah, I laugh because, short passing game, UF has a very, kind of predictable, but all we do is short passes. The problem is there's a difference between short passing and a quick passing game, and the listeners have listened to me for 2 years complain about not having a quick passing game. So hopefully during the bye week it's come in. But I like how you've brought up how other teams have avoided the pass rush by quick passing game, and how a quick 10, 15-yard strike, I'm like, this is exactly what they've heard me say on this podcast for years now. And here we go, having it out of the mouth of an opponent. But what would you say the keys for UCF would be?
The keys for UCF are going to be preparation, number one. Is their head in the game after this last game? Because, I mean, you've got Kobe Hudson out there, a number one receiver, praising Travis Hunter after the 2 days after the game or a day after the game on Instagram, right? So, all right, it's okay to do that, but give it a little bit of time before you do that. Or, you know, anybody who's played the game, yeah, there's people you respect and it's okay to shout them out, but don't do it right after you lose. Is your head in the game, right? How do they react to that loss? Do they pull together like they did against TCU, or is it a situation where the locker rooms kind of broken or breaking because they have a loss on the schedule now? I think the other key for the game is getting the running game going, and that's going to have to be an outside in. We like to run between the tackles. You guys have some size. You got basically a guy the size of Refrigerator Perry on the defensive line. He's like 400 some odd pounds. Yeah. So, you know, we're not going to be able to run between the tackles early. So we're going to have to actually pitch when we're showing a pitch, or in the RPO game. You know, KJ Jefferson's going to have to be able to read those keys effectively and be able to get rid of the ball for his option. He did not do that. He did that well against TCU in the second half. He did not do that at Colorado at all. He looked completely lost. I don't know if they didn't game prep properly. You know, he should have been handing the ball off. He should have been pitching. There were probably 7 or 8 plays that were on KJ Jefferson just having a mental meltdown. The other thing, you know, that the keys for UCF to win is make sure KJ's got his head in the game, make sure he's leveraging the RPO effectively, and make sure we're getting Randy Pittman into the game early and often. We need to be able to open up the edges, because I do believe the Gators will load the box. We need to loosen up that box and then ground and pound. If we can do those two things and not get behind, and you know, honestly, last game against Colorado, we outperformed them in every statistical category except one, and that was turnovers. Even time of possession, we had more time of possession than they did. This offense is going to produce yards. We need to be able to. We did not do well in the red zone last week. I don't know. Well, not in the red zone, really, from the 5-yard line. I don't know why we aren't just handing off the ball or bowling over KJ for 4 straight downs. You know, just stick to what we know when it comes to the red zone. And if we can stick to what we know in the red zone, KJ has his head on his shoulders, and we go outside in with the running game and passing game, I think it could be a big game, big bounce back game for the UCF Knights. They have the ability to run, but they got to score, and they got to avoid turnovers. You're not going to win a lot of games with 4 turnovers.
Do you guys run any hurry up at all?
We can. We actually can run both tempos, and we can do it effectively. What we'd rather do is get up on you and then, you know, play SEC style football, which is where we're going to smash mouth you and wear your defense out in the fourth quarter, keep them on the field as long as we can, and chunk it up 4 yards at a time. And, you know, take those 7 or 8 yard runs when we have it, and then pop the top. So, you know, we do have explosive plays, but we're going to try to run the ball, and then we'll have, you know, when we kind of lull you into that, we'll pop the top off of something. But by and large, we're going to try to play a ball control game, try to get that running game going, and do that. I think Gus Malzahn may start with the passing game, try to get KJ in rhythm this time, and then, you know, run the running game to try to grind out the clock.
The reason why I bring up the hurry up is Mississippi State and many other teams, they realize that Florida has problems getting ready and set quickly on defense, and Mississippi State's best drives, and I just use them because they're the most recent example, their first scoring drive and many other drives after that, when they ran the hurry up, we just could not stop them. And that's why I asked the question.
And we do have the depth to do it too. So we can run those guys, RJ Harvey and those guys, for, let's say, 8 or 10 plays if we need to in a hurry up, and then rotate them. And then we got a fresh set of legs that's just as good as what was out there to begin with, or pretty close or good enough. You know what I mean? So yeah, we can run the hurry up if we want to. That is one of the big things this season, I'll say, for Gus Malzahn, is his timing on some of his substitutions was questionable. TCU really drug that out when they were jogging to, and I use jogging loosely as a term on the substitutions. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, we can run it. Yes, we can run it effectively. We did that against TCU because we were so far behind. We can run a hurry up. We can drag it out. It's just a matter of what's called.
Okay. And before we get out of here, just kind of a fun question, although maybe my listeners won't like this, or maybe they will. Florida's known for having, between 92,000 fans. Of course, it's a sellout for this game. Big Florida matchup. How many UCF fans do you think we'll see of that 92,000?
I think it's going to be a question of how many Florida fans decided to sell their tickets after the first couple games. And I'll say this. There's a few barometers that I can see in either social media or other avenues, forums on, people that are going. And there's a lot of people saying that they're going, right? The UCF allotment was sold out quickly, but the Gators purposefully kept that allotment pretty low. And, there's a lot of reasons behind that. One, you don't want a bunch of your opposing fan base there. And two, they can make more money on the season ticket sales for some of those games. So there's less available. I'm going to guess there's probably going to be, if the tickets are available, I'd say somewhere between 8 to 10,000 UCF fans will be there, if not more. I think the only constraint is what was available on the secondary market for UCF fans to buy, and how many single seats were available there. Because let's be real, Florida's been around a long time. You get a lot of season ticket holders and a lot of people that don't give up those seats. So, I would say, and it could be a lot more than that. The close drive, it's just going to be based on ticket availability.
Yeah. I'm planning on driving up extra early just because I was talking this past week about most everyone, if they're not in Gainesville, seem to be driving from one direction for this game up 75. And you have some coming from Jacksonville. I know you're going to be coming from the Panhandle, but a vast majority of the UCF
actually,
fans.
I won't be. I'll be in Stark. I'll be in Stark for a work thing. I actually have some clients that are in Stark, 3 clients that are in Stark, and they're having a meeting, fortuitously or not, Thursday evening. So I'll be staying in Stark and staying in that location, and then driving up to Gainesville, which is a hop, skip, and a jump from Gainesville.
Okay, well, perfect. And I know you'll be at the game. I look forward to meeting you in person. I know we've discussed that offline, but always good to meet fellow College Huddle podcast hosts. And hopefully it'll be a good game. Of course, I want the Gators to win. We know you want the Knights to win. Do you have a score prediction before we get out of here? And it's all right if you don't.
Yeah, no, based on last week's performance for UCF, this is probably not going to match the score prediction that I had yesterday, because I actually recorded yesterday, but I think I had 28-24 Knights. I think it's going to be a close game, especially if we can get into the fourth quarter and not behind.
Okay, no, that's good, and I'm going to save my prediction for the main show. But definitely, thank you for coming on, giving me some of your time. With that said, where can people find you if they want to check out more of your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on X under KnightBengal, or you can find me on X through the Knighted Ones. We've also got an Instagram for the Knighted Ones podcast. You can find us on YouTube, all the podcast channels. Anywhere pretty much that you can find a podcast, you can find the Knighted Ones, and you can reach me at KnightBengal on X.
Okay. Once again, thank you for joining us, and for anyone listening, thank you for listening. And as always, go Gators.